What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for week 1 of building Cato Neimoidia. After weeks of hyping it up, weeks of preparation, talking about it, planning, it's finally time to start. And the nice thing is, I feel like I kind of went over pretty well what I'm going to be building already in the mock reveal, kind of, mapping out what I wanted it to look like, so I can really start building sooner instead of doing more planning, drawing stuff out, which sometimes drawing things out can really help, but I feel like with a mock like this, I have a pretty good idea going into it of what I want it to look like. I may draw something out for myself, but I don't know if you guys will end up seeing that. So this week I'm going to be getting all of the base plates set up, making sure I have enough, figuring out the final layout, and then diving into the build. The build series will be taking place every single Sunday, so it's going to be replacing the Building the UCS Acclimator that has now been moved to Thursdays. All that being said, I think it's high time I got started. All right, this is an exciting update. Cato Neimoidia is finally underway. I set up all of these base plates on my Wednesday live stream, kind of did some preparing for Cato Neimoidia, answered your guys' questions, showed you guys some of the dimensions and the basic layout of what the mock is going to look like. So as you can see, it's going to be 3 base plates wide and over 4 base plates long. These dark tan lines are going to represent where each of the cliff faces will be. So there's going to be a large cliff right here, and then another one right here, and then the city is going to kind of drape in between those two, supported by those cliffs. This is going to be crazy. This is the first time I've ever attempted 2 large-scale mocks at the same time. So over here on this table, we're going to have Cato Neimoidia. Then you can see over there, I've got the Acclimator. So I'm getting a little cramped, but that's okay. The Acclimator will probably be finishing up here in about a month or so. But it's just nice to be able to do 2 projects at the same time, even though it is cramped, because that means, more content for you guys and more building for me. I've got a couple of clones here on the base plates. We've got a realistic Phase 1 Clone Trooper and a realistic Phase 2 442nd Grunt. So these are the 2 options for my mock. I'm going to be using either one depending on what I decide. So if I go with the realistic Phase 1, it's going to be kind of my own custom battle scene, whereas if I go with the realistic Phase 2 442nd, it's going to be more along the lines of what happened in the actual Star Wars universe. This will take place right around Order 66, where the 442nd, Plo Koon, and Wolfpack were stationed on Cato Neimoidia. There's a lot of dead space between these 2 cliffs, and since the city's going to be up above, all that's going to be down here are just a bunch of little rock spires. I've been looking at a lot of reference material, and you can see a lot of smaller mountains or cliffs, whatever you want to call them, poking up through the clouds. So I'm going to have a bunch of those sprinkled throughout. And then surrounding those and then basically covering up this entire gap is going to be a lot of these trans clear 1x1 studs. I've got a lot already. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need, because it's going to be different levels. It's not going to be one flat level of studs. There's going to be peaks and valleys as I try to make shapes and stuff like that. So the first things I'm going to start on are probably these 2 cliff faces. I'd like to get the general outline started of the whole thing, as well as to start building the actual cliff. This is just a layout. I'm not going to be using 2x4 for the entire bottom. There will be slopes and stuff. Basically the same thing what I did with Utapau. Speaking of Utapau, I've still got a chunk that needs to be taken apart, and this is what I was talking about, just like a variety of slopes kind of at an angle, just to create kind of, a curved structure. Well, I think that's everything I have to say for now. I can't believe I'm finally officially starting. There's been so much preparation, so much waiting, but now the base plates are here and it's time to start. So I'm going to start building, and when I have more to update you guys with, I will check back in. I did also go to my local Lego store yesterday to check out the pick a brick wall, and I got some really good stuff. This is honestly one of the best walls I've ever seen. I'll dump this out just to give you an overview of what I got. So some of this stuff will be for the Acclimator, like these 2x3s I use a lot of. There's some 1x4 plate as well, but this tan stuff is actually for a secret project I have coming up that should be revealed probably next month. And then I got some white tiles for my custom gunship that I'm building right now. But what I wanted to talk about specifically were these green pieces. So I'm sure you guys have noticed by now I'm using the same dark tan pieces to build the cliffs and a lot of the natural terrain work as I did with Utapau, and that's because this is the color tone that most closely matches what we see on Cato Neimoidia. So that was really nice, as I had a lot of the pieces already and it's a pretty accurate match. I started working on one of those smaller little mountain peaks that I was telling you guys about. This is what one of the smaller ones are going to look like. I'm going to have bigger ones too, and one's even smaller than this, so I guess this one's more like a medium one, but it's basically just like the top of a spire. Pretty easy to build, nothing too complicated there, but this is what I'm going to be using the green for, kind of like covering the top and outer sides of these structures, just to make it look like there's some nice lush vegetation growing on there. All right, I'm checking back in one last time for the week. Just finished live streaming, and this is what I got done. If you want to ask me questions about the build, or if you want to interact with me live while I'm working on Cato Neimoidia, make sure to tune into those Saturday live streams. They're a lot of fun. Thanks, huge shout out to everyone who tuned into today's stream. This is what I got done on the stream, and it may look pretty similar to Utapau. I'm using a lot of the same techniques. However, there is one technique in particular I want to use a lot more on Cato Neimoidia, and that is sticking slopes on their side, kind of like this. What I did in the beginning of Utapau was put a lot of slopes forward, facing back kind of that way, so you got that general slope going off that direction. However, I kind of like this more, where the slopes go to this either that side or that side. This allows me to build as a lot taller without having to go that direction, because the taller this gets, the less I'm going to have to work with, till eventually I would keep going until it would meet up with the back of this mock here. So if I incorporate more of building to the side like that, I'll be able to go higher without eating up space back in that direction. Another reason I like it too is because I feel like this is more characteristic of the cliff that I'm trying to build. I'm not really trying to build a hill or a mountain that has a large slope to it, but more of a large kind of more flat structure. There will still be that slope to it. It's not going to be a straight wall. Expect to see a lot more of this in the future. Plus, I just think it looks better. I feel like it breaks up the slopes a lot more and looks more realistic. I'm doing the same thing here as I did with Utapau, basically just building up from the bottom with the filler brick. One thing I like to do instead of going out this direction with the filler brick, I basically just go up with the slopes. You can see right here, the filler brick doesn't come back very far. It just kind of builds on top of itself while holding the slopes in place. This will save you a ton of pieces when you're building rock work, because before, I would build all the way back here, build up, build over, and then you'd put the slopes on the front. But building up with the slopes allows you to, not have to fill up this entire area with brick. One thing I realized as I started out building this is I'm going to need to order more dark tan slopes and brick, which might sound insane considering how much I have and how much I used for Utapau, but I realized this right here is basically how long Utapau was. It probably went from about that end to right here. I'm basically going to have to build 2 Utapau walls, one on this side, one right here. That's going to require a lot more brick than I have, I would imagine. Maybe because it's not as deep as Utapau was, I'll be able to, save some bricks there. I may need to order more slopes. That's not too big of a deal. Obviously, that'll be a long ways down the road, as I still have plenty of dark tan at the moment. That wraps up this week of building Cato Neimoidia. I'm very happy to have finally started. Honestly, I was kind of procrastinating. Rockwork's still pretty intimidating to me. You just kind of have to build it in a certain way for it to look good, and I was, not excited to have to start that, and I was worried that, I'd start and then it would look bad and have to start over. But I'm pretty happy with how this looks, which means I should have a pretty good template moving forward, going off in that direction. So next week, because I won't have to, lay out all the base plates, get everything planned and figured out, I'll just get right into building, so there'll be a lot more progress. All that being said, time to go hit the outro. Thank you so much for watching Cato Neimoidia week 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm really glad to be started. Honestly, like I said in the update, I kind of had been putting off starting it just because of the rock work, and it was kind of intimidating, to be honest. Rock work's hard even for me, even after doing Utapau, just because I think, I want it to look a little bit different than Utapau did. But I think I'm starting to figure out what I want it to look like pretty quickly. So next week we should get a ton of progress done, because I've got the jitters out of the way, got it all started, jumped over that first hurdle. Now I can just hit the ground running and start building. That wraps up this video. If you guys like this video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up, and of course don't forget to let me know what you thought about week 1 down below in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to let me know. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any more exciting action. But until next time, happy building.